Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Fair. Nope, I hated it.
Why? Why?
Wasn't feeling it. I started on Joe, and if I'm gonna stutter that early, it's just I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go home. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Fair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Rowan Atkinson's favorite football podcast. That's right.
Where'd you come up with Rowan Atkinson?
The Mr. Bean.
Johnny English.
Yeah, Johnny English, right? I'm joined, obviously, by my illustrious producer, Joe Teason. How's it going, Joe?
It's going really well.
That's great to hear.
I was really hoping that today you would bring up that it was John Collins' favorite football podcast.
Oh, shit. I got to save that one, John Collins. But before we get down that rabbit trail, we also have another illustrious person on this podcast. And it's not just Joe, but it's for the second time our good buddy, Joel. How's it going, Joel?
Dude, it's going pretty good, man.
That's good. That's good.
I don't know who John Collins is, though.
You weren't there. It's not first.
Oh, yeah, shoot. John Collins. So basically, there's two John Collins. One John Collins is, there's a basketball player named John Collins. Super cool guy. You can dunk well. But that's not the that's not the guy that we're talking about. John Collins is an Instagram influencer.
Really?
If you please. He is what I like to call a country boy TikToker.
Oh, that's rough.
Oh, and it's even worse than you'd think. Like, it's 100 times worse than you would even ever imagine, because it's not just country boy stuff, but always taking his shirt off.
Oh, yeah.
And basically always talking about how, about his ex. It's a big thing. And he's got a big jacked up truck in the back all the time.
Nice.
And I can't even do it justice, Joe. Like, what else can we even say about
Joe,
John Collins?
He's going to pull something up here. I gotta see.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to let's get a little elevator music and take a quick break. That's okay. We'll do it.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
And we're back. So that was Joel. So tell us what you thought about.
I'm upset that I saw that.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't know who this guy was. Oh my goodness.
In a way, he's the worst person in the whole world.
In many ways.
But also, I don't know what I would do without him. Joe and a couple of our other, Joe's brother and Travis, who is one of our friends, we thrive off of this guy's content. I mean, if you guys are listening and you have not looked it up,
don't look it up.
You're
happier the way you are.
Please don't look it up, because you will fall in love. Especially if you are a woman, be careful. Honey, if you're listening to this, don't look up John Collins.
I honestly think you're happier as a person. Like, I was happier 5 minutes ago before I didn't know who John Collins was.
I see, and that's what I think that we differ. Is I think he makes me a happier person. The fact that I know, and I can see where you're coming from. The fact, if you think about that, he makes probably so much money.
And that's exactly what upsets me so much.
That's okay. Yeah, thinking about it that way is frustrating, but also just, I think I'd rather be, poor and not him than be, rich and him.
That's a good point, actually.
And if you want him to feel even worse, he's also a father, as far as we know.
Wow,
I'm pretty sure he's a father, so he has a child.
He's like me.
Yeah, so so if you want, you can start taking your shirt off and doing stuff like that.
For TikToks.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that was... I don't know what else to say about John Collins, but hey... We're going to talk football at some point.
Hey.
Joel. We're going to talk football at some point.
And that makes me happy. I forget about John Collins already.
We're going to get that taste out of our mouth. We're going to talk about all the games that happened. Well, sort of. We're going to go through very quickly all the games that happened in Week 17. And then we're going to talk MVP race. We're going to talk some of the most disappointing teams. We're going to talk, and then we're obviously going to talk head coaching openings. It was Black Monday. Was this Monday? So for those of you that don't know, Black Monday is when usually all of the remaining head coaches that are going to get fired. They call it Black Monday, just so you guys know. But And then we're also going to talk about what else are we going to talk about? I have a whole thing. We're probably going to go in depth on the Dolphins and the Eagles, as those are our teams.
Very good.
Both kind of heartbreaking situations.
Very hard.
Very hard. And then obviously we're going to give you a ton of playoff content as the playoff matchups are finally set.
Yeah.
About time.
I'm excited for that. I think that's like what I'm most looking forward to talking about.
Oh,
like Dolphins, Eagles, we're probably both going to be a little bit depressed
No,
for both
100%.
of them. But like playoffs, I'm so excited to talk playoffs.
Yes, me too. It's just the real season is finally here. We don't have to talk about Jets versus Patriots or Raiders versus Broncos anymore. It's like these teams don't matter anymore. It's time to get into the real stuff.
Exactly.
Get into the nitty-gritty, get into the super wild card weekend.
Super.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it this year.
It's like pour one out for the dead teams, but like, who really cares?
But
about
don't
them?
pour too much.
Yeah, don't pour too much.
Like, let's not waste a lot.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
But I don't know if we have anything else. You guys not curious at all why I said Rowan Atkinson at the beginning of the show?
No, that's Mr. Bean. Okay, yeah, sure.
But he was trending today on Twitter. That's where I get a lot of my people from.
Was it a Me Too thing?
No, sorry, Joe.
Was it a Me Too thing?
By the way, just so you guys know, we only have 2 mics among 3 people, so that's give us a little bit of leeway here. It's making things a little bit complicated. Joe and Joel have to constantly be switching mics, but it was not a Me Too. He did not sexually assault anybody, so you can thank. I would not say that it's his favorite podcast if he sexually assaulted somebody.
You just said Cuba Gooding.
I didn't say it was his favorite podcast.
You said you love him.
I said I love Cuba Gooding Jr., but that was before I knew that he was a sexual.
He was a rapist.
Deviant.
Yeah.
But basically, Rowan Atkinson was just talking about cancel culture, and then people wanted to cancel him for that, which is so ironic.
That's hilarious.
I don't know. People were saying how funny it is that Mr. Bean, a guy who never talks, is talking all of a sudden, and it's something that they don't agree with, so he should just never talk. It's like, okay. It's just funny that they don't see the irony behind them wanting to cancel Mr. Bean for talking about cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we really accomplishing here? It seems like you're kind of just, evening thing. I don't know. Whatever. I got nothing else to say, really.
Anyways, so our first game is actually the Bears at the Tigers.
I told you. We talked about this before the show.
What's that?
Did you say Tigers?
He said the Tigers.
No.
He said the
Yeah,
Tigers.
he said the Bears are the Tigers.
Oh, I meant the other big cat, the Lions, baby.
Okay.
We
They
had.
didn't play.
Well, we did tell you before the show you're not allowed to do that anymore.
All right.
Okay?
Back to you,
All
Joel.
right, back to you, Joel. But
Very good.
unless I don't think we have really much else to talk about as far as banter go. Joel's making it here for his very first banter segment.
Banter.
You're with us
Bants.
through the whole show today, Joel.
Full show.
The whole
start
thing.
to finish.
Exactly right. But without further ado, why don't we? Excuse me, more like an adult this time. Why don't we just jump straight into a little bit of news? Like we talked about, Black Monday was this Monday.
Hey, that's like Black Friday, but worse.
But yeah, it's like Black Friday, but instead of getting a TV for a good price, you lose your job.
Lose your job.
It really is because, it's kind of messed up that we talk about so loosely. It's like these guys losing their jobs.
Yeah.
And it's, most of them are millionaires.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's like,
you can't
who
feel
cares?
too sad for them.
But also you have to think about when they get fired, it's not just them getting fired, it's their entire staff getting fired. And a lot of them don't get paid that much.
yeah.
Like probably not much more than us. But RIP in peace to all of those staffs. But there were some more firings, obviously. Nothing too terribly surprising. But on Black Monday, Adam Gase gets his walking papers, which as a Dolphins fan, I was bummed out a little bit. I was hoping that, these last couple wins would just convince the Jets, hey, maybe we should keep him around.
You're a sick boy.
I am a sick boy. My Dolphins hurt me this weekend, so I'm ready to hurt others.
Feeling like lashing out.
Exactly. I don't care who gets in my way.
Yeah.
Doug Marrone also fired, the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. And Anthony Lynn, probably the most surprising.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one. I thought because he won like 4 games in a row to end the season, right?
That's a good question. I don't actually know.
I'm pretty sure he did, and so that I was surprised that he got fired.
They did just beat the Chiefs. I know it was the Chiefs B team, But I mean, I don't know. I figured, going out like that and Justin Herbert playing as well as he did.
Yeah.
But and I think you could also make a case that potentially Justin Herbert got Anthony Lynn fired because he was playing so well, and the rest of the team was not playing well, and Anthony Lynn constantly botching those end of the game situations.
Yeah. How are you an NFL head coach, but you don't know how to manage the clock?
Yeah.
Like, how do you make it that far?
It's like you can play Madden and kind of get an idea of how to manage the clock. You're like,
It's like, hey, spike the ball if you don't have any timeouts, Like,
I remember there was one game. It was going into halftime. They were running out of time, and it's actually happened a couple of games. I think it was also the Bills game, if I'm not mistaken. I think they played the Bills. I hope they definitely played the Bills. But there was a game where going into halftime. This is not the Bills game, but going into halftime, they're running out of time. They're trying to really quickly score.
Yeah, I think
they have no timeouts left, and they end up. I think they go no huddle. And they call a run play somehow.
This is exactly what I was thinking of. Instead of spiking the ball, everyone in the world is like, okay, he's going to spike the ball. Yeah. He called a run play.
A run play.
What are you thinking?
And, when you run the ball, the clock keeps going, and they had no time to even kick a field goal. And I think the same thing happened, and I think they were down by 2 scores, so it was not like a huge thing at the end of the Bills game. But the same thing, they were driving down. They're trying to quickly score so they can get an onside kick to potentially try to win the game. And then I think they got really close to the goal line. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was the Bills game. And again, a run play in the most inopportune of times, and you waste a ton of. And this happened over and over with Anthony Lynn.
Okay, do you think that they, like, the GM or ownership or whoever makes the decision to fire him, do you think they call up Justin Herbert and they're like, hey, man, what do you think? And he's like, dude, this guy doesn't know how to manage the end of games. Like,
that's a good question. I know for a fact that there are quarterbacks that have final say. Well, maybe not final say, but have a say.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't think Justin Herbert would have final say, but I would think, like, they would probably ask him for input, right? Like, and like honest input.
Well, and you have to be careful with that as well, because a couple years back when Hugh Jackson of the Cleveland Browns was fired and the Cleveland Browns were looking for a head coach, they basically hired Freddie Kitchens because of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield essentially picked out Freddie Kitchens as their head coach.
Wasn't he a quarterback coach before that?
I think he was a running backs coach.
A running back coach.
He was a running. I'm pretty sure he was a running backs coach, and then I believe, and I could get this wrong, but I believe so Hugh Jackson was fired, and then he became the offensive coordinator after Hugh Jackson was fired. And then,
like the Wolverine.
Excuse me?
That's Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. All right. Sorry, listeners, that you had to endure that. But every time Joel comes on, we're just gonna be so mean to Joe. To put him down. Way to be, idiot! You don't know anything about football. You probably don't even know any of the head coaching vacancies.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Speaking of the head coaching vacancies, so now with those 3 guys fired, Adam Gase, Doug Marrone, Anthony Lynn, they join Dan Quinn of the Atlanta Falcons, Matt Patricia of the Detroit Lions, and also Bill O'Brien of the Houston Texans. So that leaves...
Billy O.B.
Yeah, Billy O.B. The man with... never mind. We're not going to get into that.
Honestly, you know what? I think that the Eagles should hire Billy O.B., fire Doug Peterson, just to completely tank their entire franchise, worse than Doug already has. And then, you know what? Boom.
Well, listen,
we rebuild from the ashes.
That seems like a good idea, except for the fact that he would also get rid of all your draft picks.
That's true.
So you don't really want that, because the Texans have no first or second round pick. But speaking of that, so now the openings are the Chargers, the Jaguars, the Texans, the Falcons, the Jets, and the Lions. And that brings me to my question here in this news segment is, Joel, what do you think out of these, how many is there? Six head coaching openings. Which job would you most want to have?
See, there's actually some good ones here. Like the Texans, you have Deshaun Watson. The Jags, you have Trevor Lawrence, probably, or Justin Fields after that college game. It was freaking nuts.
That was an incredible game.
Or you have Justin Herbert. And honestly, I'm thinking, like, I'm looking at the teams, and I think that the Chargers are they're the best set up for future success. They have a good defense when it's healthy, and they lost almost the most man games to injury this year.
They do every year.
Yeah, and I feel like they are probably the best set up for success going forward, and Justin Herbert was amazing this year. So I'd pick the Chargers.
I like that pick, and I think you can kind of. So there's two jobs that I wouldn't want. Okay, let's put this in perspective. If somebody actually wants to hire me as a head coach, I'll take any of these jobs. But
Absolutely.
But I would not take the Lions job if I had a choice between all the 6 of these teams, because I just think it's a mess. They have that franchise just has a history of just being messy. And you're in Detroit. I've been there. It's not a great place to be. Atlanta, again, Matt Ryan's awesome. Julio Jones, awesome. But you're going to have to be tasked with replacing those guys very shortly.
Very shortly.
So those are the 2 jobs I think I would put at the bottom. The Jets are kind of an intriguing job.
Yeah, the Jets. Oh,
You don't
I'm
think
confused.
so?
I don't know. Like, their ownership is such a mess, and like their GM and everything, the way that they relate to one another and everything. I don't know. I don't know. But maybe if they take Justin Fields and like maybe they can rebuild. I think they have like 11 picks or something like that.
They also have the Seattle Seahawks first round pick this year. I believe they have a first round pick next year from them as well. And if I'm not mistaken, also a second round pick involved there from the Jamal Adams trade.
See, so maybe you're thinking like, hey, we can turn around. Like if you believe in the GM, you're like, hey, we can turn around pretty quick and like maybe actually make something of it as long as ownership kind of stays out of it.
I think when you look at it, the Jets and the Jaguars, I think are very, very similar.
Yeah,
similar jobs. I think the Jets, to me, as bad as they were this year, if you look at the talent on the roster, and they are lacking talent. I mean, defensively, I don't think they have a very good roster at all. Their offensive line is still not very good. Mekhi Becton is awesome. He was really good for them this year, but they have incredible receivers. If you actually go back and watch film on the Jets, they have Denzel Mims, the rookie this year, Jamison Crowder. Who's the other guy that I'm thinking of? What's his name? He played for them. Rashad Perryman. That's three decent receivers right there. And if you believe that maybe you can get something out of Sam Darnold, maybe you take Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell. That's a basically a home run pick right there.
Yeah.
And you have all those picks. And same thing with Jacksonville. There's talent. I was watching them try to defeat the Colts in a very sad situation there for me this week.
I can just imagine the look on your face watching the Jacksonville Jaguars try to beat the Colts.
I'm depending on Napoleon Dynamite to win me a game. Okay, but we'll get to that. But basically, I just noticed like they have some good playmakers too. Like they have James Robinson was freaking awesome this last year.
James Robinson's legit.
He is really good. Like I think he was top 5 in the NFL in rushing yards.
And undrafted.
Dude. That's insane.
Yeah.
And like they have receivers. Laviska Shenault is a cool player. They have DJ Chark. He had a disappointing year this year.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really blame him. Like, he was playing with Mike Glennon for most of the year, so I don't know.
And listen, I'm wearing a Gardner Minshew shirt today. So I want you guys to see that. I'm wearing it just because I think that if Gardner Minshew played this weekend, the Dolphins would be in the playoffs now.
I got more on that when I'm ranting later. I got more.
Let's get into that. But okay, I haven't said mine. I think the Chargers, that's a really good thing, and I would be totally fine with the Chargers job as well. I think the Jaguars job is super interesting. Houston, as bad as it is they have no cap room and they have no picks, but they have Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson.
He's proven.
He's legit.
He quietly led the league in passing yards this season.
Did he wind up? He did.
He led the league in passing yards.
Wow.
Which is crazy because he had nobody.
Yeah, he had no one.
Literally.
He's throwing to Fuller, who got popped for roids, and Kenny Stills just left the team. And
he threw to a guy named Kiki Kuti.
Kiki Kuti. How is that a real person? That's like Chad Beebe. How is that a real name?
How are these real people? Yeah. What is happening? But I think if I had to, I won't say Chargers, but that is a good job. But I think the Jacksonville job is really cool. Defensively, they have players. They have good players at almost every position group. They have a great running back, James Robinson. Hopefully, he can duplicate his success next year. They have good receivers, like I talked about. I think that their offensive line is fine. Defensively, they have talent. They drafted, what was his name? The guy from Caleb Chason this last year. They have Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen. The defensive lineman. He's good. Miles Jack, I think he's a free agent, as long as he doesn't leave. But there is talent there. And I think the prospect of what Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be, to me, is better than Deshaun Watson, better than Justin Herbert. And who's to say that he ever becomes that? Because it's all prospect. Yeah. But if Trevor Lawrence is as good as people say he is going to be, I mean, that is franchise changing.
Yeah.
That's Peyton Manning to the Colts type of deal right there.
And honestly, I'd rather live in Jacksonville than LA because I feel like LA is just a mess with all the traffic or whatever.
Yeah.
Jacksonville is like, I don't know. What do they do there? They just party, right?
I think they just have a good time.
Yeah. It sounds like an all right place.
That's why it sucks that Gardner Minshew is not going to be the quarterback there anymore, because he felt like the perfect face of Jacksonville.
He was the soul of Jacksonville.
He absolutely was. But that kind of wraps up the Black Monday coaching carousel thing. We'll keep you updated on next episode. I'm sure there will be, I don't know if there will be hirings, maybe, potentially, but there's a bunch of interviews going on. People are talking about Urban Meyer, the former Ohio State coach, potentially going to Jacksonville. That's interesting.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
He's got a cool name.
Urban Meyer. A lot of coaches in college have cool names.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer.
Nick Saban. Even that's a cool name.
Dabo Sweeney.
Dabo Sweeney.
The Clemson.
What is that even? How are you allowed to have a name that cool?
Who names their son Dabo?
Especially when your last name is Sweeney.
Sweeney. Yeah, that's incredible. And there's a Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher is another guy. You guys are just sniffing a candle. That's glorious. But why don't we just jump into, real quick, all of the games from Week 17, a busy Week 17, the final week of the regular season. We made it. Who would have thunk it? Through the fire and the flames, we carried on all the way to Week 17. So put these into two categories. I have, in the latter part of it, games that we will discuss a little bit, as much as we want. And like I said, we're trying to run through these quickly as we have playoffs to talk about, and that's really all that anybody cares about now. But I want to quickly just go through how we got to the playoffs, because a lot of these games are key to the playoff matchups. These games are the reason that we have certain playoff matchups. But I also have games I like to classify as who cares games.
Who cares games?
Who cares games? Because these are games between two teams that are not in the playoffs. So who cares? That is, Joel, and you can stop me if all of a sudden you want to talk about one of these games. But
I doubt that I will.
I doubt that you will as well. First up, we have the Jets and the Patriots, 14-28 in the Patriots' favor. Just stop me whenever you're ready, Joel. and then we had the Vikings at the Lions. This was a shootout, 37-35.
And like, if you're a fan of football, you probably go back, watch some of these games. Like Raiders versus Broncos was nuts too, and this game was crazy. But like, who cares?
Raiders, Vikings, Lions shootout, 2-point victory for the Vikings. Vikings, Lions. Yeah, I think I said that. And then Raiders, Broncos, 1-point victory in a shootout. Like any other week, that's like the game of the week.
Yeah, I watched the end of the Raiders Broncos game because I was just like bored and my son was napping. I was like, yeah, what the heck? But it was like crazy. But even though it was like a nuts game, I did not care. I was like, wow, this is really wild. And if this were like week 4, I'd be hyped up, but I don't care.
It's like the Raiders go for 2 and win it at the end. It's like, wow, who cares?
Wow.
Like, you just have a worse draft pick now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And we'll get into draft picks later. But and then we move on to games that maybe matter a little bit more. We're going to start off with the Ravens destroying, you could even say shellacking, the Cincinnati Bengals 38-3. And the biggest takeaway I have from this game is that the Baltimore Ravens ran for 404 rushing yards in this game.
Oh my goodness. 404. As a team, when I heard that stat, I was listening to a different podcast yesterday. When I heard that stat,
how dare you?
I was appalled.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness,
that's
how is that real life?
Insane. Apparently I think it's like the second or third time that's happened since the 1950s. That's
wow.
Some teams can go months without gaining 400 yards in a game. Yeah. And they just did it just purely on the ground.
Yeah.
And Lamar
that's like 2 Derrick Henry games.
Literally 1.5 maybe.
1.5.
But we'll get into that as well. Lamar Jackson also becomes the first quarterback to have consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons, which is crazy. I think there's only like 8 or 9 players that went over 1,000 yards rushing this year. All of them obviously are running backs except for Lamar Jackson, which is just crazy.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. He's obviously not the passer that some of these other guys are, guys like Josh Allen, but it's impressive. 1,000 yards is impressive, and I don't think he's a complete liability as far as passing goes, but he's not an elite passer. But
yeah,
basically all I want to say about this game, Joel, and you can weigh in as well. When the Ravens are playing like this, and I'm talking 400 yards rushing in a game, and they've been like this the last few weeks. When they're playing their style of ball, running the ball, who can stop this team?
Yeah, I would say Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, because it's like you're gonna rush and take up 7 minutes and you'll get a touchdown, but then Patrick Mahomes will come back on the field, and in 2 minutes you'll still be tied at 7-7. So like if you're the Ravens playing the Chiefs, like that's your scariest matchup, because even though you're maybe controlling the game, the Chiefs are never out of it. Neither are the Bills now, I would say, and they can strike back so fast that. I don't know. Can you depend on your like rushing to get a touchdown every time? Because that's what you kind of need.
I think the argument would be, and the Ravens have a really good secondary too. They have Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. Those are 2 All-Pro level cornerbacks. I think it would be if you get a good enough game out of your defense, and they have talent on that defense. Like that is a talented roster from top to bottom. If you get a good enough game against your defense or with your defense against one of those teams, and then you have on the other side of the ball, you're getting the rushing game. It's basically you have to have a perfect storm with a team like the Buffalo Bills or a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Ravens are playing their game on offense and their defense is playing good enough, you can chew out the clock, keep the ball out of the opposing quarterback's hands, and that is literally what you like. That is a dream scenario for the Baltimore Ravens.
I will say that as a Bills fan, I was very excited that we weren't playing the Ravens. I think they are the scariest team on the lower seed side right now, for sure.
For sure. I think there are a ton of teams. I think every team in the AFC was hoping they would not end up playing the Ravens, and we'll get into who is playing the Ravens later on in the episode. But why don't we move on to the next game? And it was the Buccaneers winning 44-27 over the Atlanta Falcons. And speaking of teams heating up at the right time, the Buccaneers are absolutely heating up at the right time.
Tom Brady is heating up at the right time. I thought he was done. I was like 100%. After like the first 10 weeks, I was like, this he's done. But his last 3 weeks have just been incredible.
He quietly has had he's not going to win MVP, but an MVP caliber season.
I would agree.
He's thrown for 40 plus touchdowns, which is something that he hasn't done a ton in his career.
And one of the highest yardage seasons of his career too, right?
Literally, he threw for another he was 1 yard away from 400 yards in this game, 4 touchdowns. Then you had Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, both of them individually went over 130 yards receiving, and both had 2 touchdowns.
It's insane. Did you see how Tom Brady threw like 3 shovel passes to Antonio Brown at the end of the game to get him a bonus?
Oh yes, yes. There's tons of teams doing that this week to get the players their bonuses. That's great. But the Bucs to me are another team. They're heating up at the right time, and when they're playing like this, everybody's playing to their highest level. Guys like Antonio Brown, who's been great the last few weeks. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans was hurt this week. Hopefully, he'll be all right. And even Gronk pitching in a couple things. When they're playing like this, they're another team that could go on a tear here in the playoffs. And they might not be the best team per se, but in the NFL, it's each game's a 1-game series in the playoffs.
Yeah, right? I would say the Buccaneers are scary, man, right now. I wouldn't want to deal with them, and they've set themselves up really well, which we'll talk about later. But Gronk is also playing some of the best football he's played in the last couple of years, and I don't just mean last year when he wasn't playing, but even the years before that, he hasn't looked this good in a long time.
He looks like he's getting better as the weeks go on, and I think that coincides with this team. I think they're getting better. And it'll be interesting to see how they do in the playoffs. And speaking of getting better, the New Orleans Saints defeated the Carolina Panthers. Another shellacking, a couple shellackings here off the bat. The Saints win 33-7 over the Carolina Panthers, completely demolishing the Panthers without Alvin Kamara, who was out with COVID. And the Saints actually caught a huge break. They're playing on Sunday now. So Alvin Kamara will most likely be able to play.
Yeah, unless he has it, right?
He did have it.
Oh, he did have it?
He did have Alvin Kamara had COVID.
Oh, I thought he was just like a close contact.
No,
So if his symptoms go away, then he gets to play on Sunday?
I'm pretty sure, he is clear. He's out of quarantine. I'm pretty sure he had it. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive he did have it. But yeah, if they would have scheduled the game on Saturday, he would not have been able to play. But now that it's on Sunday, he will be able to play.
Hey.
Essentially, unless all of a sudden there's another setback.
At least the Saints fans, they can't complain against the league now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a pass interference situation like last year.
Yeah.
The league did you a favor. They put your game on Sunday. Be happy.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, Saints fans, because they always have things to complain about. But come on, just win games in the playoffs.
Win games.
Moving on to the next game, and this is one of the, I think this is the first game really that had huge playoff implications, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers falling, barely, the Pittsburgh Steelers B team falling to the Cleveland Browns 24-22, and for the first time since 2002.
2002. I was 7 years old.
Joe was not even born yet. Those you watch.
Okay, Joe, what year were you born?
96, man.
Liar.
The year of the.
He was born in 2001.
I was born in. I was
Loser. You're not even a 90s kid.
Hey, you weren't born in 96 though. Were you born in 2001?
Yeah, I was born in 97. There's no way he was
No,
born in
obviously
96.
not. I'm like, okay. 2001, so you were 1 year old the last time the Browns made the playoffs.
We don't like to talk about his age too much because we don't think that people will take us seriously. With a just. Yo, I'm so sorry. I do love you, but I also love the Browns making the playoffs for the first time. I was a little worried.
Oh my
I'm a
gosh.
little worried.
Okay, so like Eagles are my team. I have a lot of teams. You've always known this.
Yeah.
Eagles are my number one. Above all, I don't care. Eagles are my guys.
Okay.
Bills are my second team. They're my AFC team.
Okay, that's fair.
But the Browns over the last 2 years have kind of been like my crush team. Like I have a crush on them.
Yeah.
Like I like watching them play.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I'm not gonna say anything. But they're like
Easy.
yeah, they're like my crush team, and I love watching them play.
Yeah.
But this game was scary, and I thought they were gonna lose to Mason Rudolph, and Myles Garrett was gonna have to go home with his tail between his legs, and I was so
Myles
worried.
Garrett was gonna have to hit him again. This time
Hit him
for
with
good.
his helmet
this
again.
time for good.
This Mason Rudolph would never get up
Yeah,
this time.
just put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
This was scary. I mean, the Browns, I think, had a 2-score lead there late in the game, and all of a sudden, the Mason Rudolph starts
Oh my
marching down the
gosh.
field, and they make it a 2-point game with that touchdown. They go for the 2-point conversion.
And they stopped it, yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't get. As a Dolphins fan, in the moment, I'm not gonna lie, I do love the Browns as well, and I always root for the Browns. I love the underdog story. I've always been an underdog guy, and the Browns are literally the ultimate underdog.
Yes.
So I always root for the Browns. But at that moment, with my Dolphins being absolutely embarrassed on national TV, I was rooting for the Steelers. It didn't go my way, so it's all good. I am excited for the Browns, but more news. Horrible
my
news.
Goodness. Kevin Stefanski.
Not only Kevin Stefanski, Joel Bitonio, one of their starting offensive linemen, also out with COVID. I mean, just first time since 2002.
Yeah.
And now you're not going to have your head coach, and you're not going to have a starting offensive lineman, one of the best starting offensive linemen in the league.
And their O-line is like super, super important. Like Baker needs time. Like he needs to
100%.
be able to run around back there, and he needs time to make his plays.
Oh, and
like,
let's not forget who they're playing this week.
yeah, they're playing freaking TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Like
One of the best defensive lines in football.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. And just like Kevin Stefanski, potential coach of the year, and to not have him in this game, it hurts. It's devastating.
It's kind of heartbraking, actually.
It
Like,
is very
It's
heartbreaking.
depressing. I feel really bad for them, but
If it was the Baltimore Ravens, they'd probably move this game into like next April. But because it's the Browns, they're not going to do that. But
listen, we're not bitter.
yeah,
we're not bitter.
We're going to get into that. We'll get into the playoff stuff obviously later. But on the next game, we have the Packers and the Bears playing a game, an NFC North matchup. The Packers end up running away with what was a close game there for a while, a 35-16 victory for the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. And the biggest question I think from this game is, did Aaron Rodgers? And we're not going to answer the question because we're going to talk about the MVP in a little bit. But Aaron Rodgers potentially locking up the MVP trophy with 4 touchdowns in this game. But this game in general, not a whole lot to talk about. I feel like both these teams are going to be in the playoffs regardless.
Yeah.
Chicago somehow makes it back in.
Oh my goodness.
This is crazy. Mitcher, our boy, Bisky's going to the playoffs. But a good win for Green Bay. They're in the number 1 seed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about this game.
No, it was exciting. It was a fun game to watch for a bit, but it just felt really inevitable. Like the Packers are going to win this.
And I would say, the final score is not impressive. There's times during this game where I was impressed with the Bears. I thought they played well.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers had 3 passes that should have been intercepted in this game. I think 2 of them were back to back. The Bears just could not catch the ball.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers made some mistakes, but when you come at the king, you best not miss. And the Bears missed a lot in this game. And speaking of misses, that's not a good transition because the Seahawks and the 49ers played. Seahawks come away narrowly. They almost couldn't do it against the 49ers, a frisky 49ers team, 26-23.
I don't know, man. Like the Seahawks, I'm looking at the stats right now. They had 6 points until the fourth quarter with 11 minutes left. Like, I don't know. Call me crazy, but I don't believe in the Seahawks team at all. Like,
all right.
I don't know.
Slow down. We'll get into that.
I can't believe they won this game. They looked out of it. They looked out of sorts, but they pulled it off.
I think this is, and I tend to sort of agree with the Seahawks. They've looked bad at times, but Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator there for San Francisco, he's going to be a head coach this year.
I mean, sure.
He's really impressed the last few weeks. The 49ers are just in it. They beat Arizona. What was it, last week? And just impressive performances. Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches in the NFL, and they just had way too much to deal with this year as far as injuries go. There is rumors that they're going to be potentially moving on from Jimmy G.
I think they should. Like,
it's not
Carson.
Carson. Okay,
I'm just gonna push Carson Wentz on every team.
Is that an upgrade? Well, who knows? I mean, they have the 13th pick in the draft, so I definitely could see it happening.
There's some QBs out there, so yeah.
There's last year it felt like almost no teams were looking for quarterbacks. This year, I think this offseason, and obviously we have a whole offseason to talk about this, but there's a lot of teams I think are going to be looking for quarterbacks this year, and the 49ers are definitely one of those teams. And a potential another one of those teams could be the Los Angeles Rams. Who knows? They did win a game, however, against the Arizona Cardinals, an 8-17. What a weird score! 18-17.
18-7, right?
18-7.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
This game was also super weird. Like just the weirdest game. I have Kyler Murray in fantasy, and I thought that I messed up and he was sitting, but no, he just got injured on the very first drive.
Yep.
And then it was Jared Wolford versus Chris Straveller.
Sorry, I believe it's John Wolford.
Oh, John Wolford.
Put some respect on his name.
Jared Goff, John Wolford.
Wolford.
Versus Straveller.
Is it Chris Straveller?
Yeah, I don't know. He's plays for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Blue Bombers.
He is not an NFL quarterback.
They literally got him
at all.
Got him from Winnipeg.
He won the Grey Cup last year, all right? Like, this guy,
Let's relax.
I don't know. Yeah. This was a joke of a game, I think, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to talk about this game too much. It is disappointing ending for the Cardinals, for sure.
Yeah.
It sucks. They looked like a playoff team at times this year. They will not make the playoffs. The Rams, however, do make it in. It's just funny that these teams were fighting for a playoff spot. And it came down to both of their backup quarterbacks.
It's honestly too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. It sucks. But Johnny Wolford, he plays a fine game, and who knows? There's chances he might start next week in the playoffs as well. With Jared Goff struggling, who knows? But and then on to the next game. We're getting close to the end of the games here. The Jaguars at the Colts. And the Jags walk away with a loss, 28-14. We won't talk too much because I think we got to get going through some of these games. But the Colts are in the playoffs, 28-14. Joel, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about this game.
Just Jonathan Taylor. That's it.
Jonathan Taylor is freaking crazy, and this was another game that was maybe closer than it should have been.
Yeah,
closer than it should have been. I don't know. It's just sad that I had to rely on Mike Glennon to win that game. As a Dolphins fan, we'll get into the Dolphins game, but it's a depressing reality, but it's the reality nonetheless. And then we move on to an amazing game, the Titans at the Texans.
Wow, what a game!
These two teams are just fun, flat out fun.
It honestly, like watching that game, I felt like JJ Watt deserved to win that game. Yeah. After like what he said last week about how like we got to try for our teammates and everything, and like how much effort he was putting out there,
yeah.
I felt like the Texans are going out and they're winning this game for J.J. Watt, and then they lost in the last bit, and I don't know, it sucked.
Yeah. Came down to, well, first of all, Derrick Henry passes 2,000 yards.
Yes, that was incredible.
250 yards rushing in this game.
250 yards.
That guy is a weapon of mass destruction.
Yes,
I mean,
he is the scariest man in the NFL for sure.
He should be part of the army because he is literally our own personal Hulk.
He is a super soldier.
He absolutely
is.
Yeah,
Him versus Captain America. I'm taking my boy Derek.
I'm going to put my money on King Henry, El Tractorcito.
Yeah.
But this game came down to the wire. The Texans end up tying it up. I think there was, 18 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
18 seconds left?
Yep.
And then Ryan Tannehill throws an absolute dime. He sets up Sam Sloman. Sam Sloman.
Is it Sloman? I was saying Slauman during the game.
I hope it's not Slauman. Sam Sloman nails a game-winning field goal to send.
Oh, not nails.
Okay, well, he nailed something. He hit the upright.
He hit the upright and it bounced in.
Mercifully went in. And the Titans win the AFC South, and they'll host a playoff game now. But yeah, that was a fun game. These two teams will be fun in the future. Obviously, the Texans were a disaster this year, but the AFC South has some interesting teams for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And then, before we get into my Dolphins, why don't we just quickly go? Well, we don't have to go quickly, but the NFC East. The NFC East finally got wrapped up here. First game, Cowboys Giants. This was a game both of these teams needed to win and have Washington lose to make it. The Giants walk away with a 23-19 victory over the Cowboys. The freaking Cowboys. I picked them to make it to the playoffs.
I appreciate you just like ride or dying with the Cowboys right to week 17. You did not stop believing in them.
Yeah. They kept bringing me back. It was like a toxic boyfriend.
And they lost the game on Wayne Gallman sitting on top of the ball. That was just the dumbest looking play I've ever seen.
The dumbest looking play for the dumbest division ever. And the dumbest me for constantly getting sucked in by the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They were my Super Bowl pick before the year. Dak Prescott goes down. I give up on him. All of a sudden, Andy Dalton starts throwing dimes. I'm like, they're back, baby. I'm picking them to go into the playoffs. Here we go, Cowboys. And nope. They can't beat Daniel Jones and Joe Judge.
Yep.
But speaking of Joe Judge, why don't we move on to the next game? We'll get into Joe Judge.
I got thoughts about Joe Judge, man.
Washington. So this is the game that ended up deciding the NFC.
Well, are we doing Eagles first?
Washington versus Eagles. Are you ready, Joel?
Okay, I need to go to the bathroom first.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a quick bathroom break. We're back from Joel's pee break. Here we go. We're talking Eagles. The Eagles fall to the Washington football team 20-14. And Joel, I'm just going to throw it to you. What kind of thoughts do you have on this? Because this was a controversial game.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was very controversial, and rightfully so. I think, Doug Peterson... Okay, first off, I think that Doug Peterson should be fired after this season. I don't think that he should be allowed to run a team anymore.
Ooh.
I don't know. But he was tanking, and I wish he would come out and just kind of say, I put Nate Sudfeld in because I was scared Jalen Hurts was going to win us this game. I wanted the 6th pick, not the 9th. But I don't know, man. It was painful. I was texting with you, and I got mad after. I think it was after we had 4th and goal. It was 4th and goal with 8 yards to go, and Doug Peterson, when it was 14-17, went for it on 4th down instead of kicking a field goal, and I was like, "You're not even trying anymore. You're not." And he didn't even call a good play, and I was just like, I'm done. And then I just kept watching, and I couldn't turn it off. I was so mad, but I couldn't turn it off. And then he pulled Jalen Hurts, and he puts Nate Sudfeld in, and I was like, oh my goodness, Doug, what are you doing?
That was horse manure. I mean, there are some times this year Doug Peterson has done some things, and he is doing the complete opposite of what he says he is.
Yeah.
To put in Nate Sudfeld, when Jalen Hurts was not playing bad. I don't think he was playing bad.
Like he was making things happen. They were moving down the field. He had some rough drives. Like I'll agree to that.
Yeah.
But everybody in like the world knows that their best chance to win was with Jalen Hurts on the field,
because he's done special things multiple times during this year. He's even during games where they lost, during that Arizona game, he nearly led them back.
He was awesome.
He's done some amazing things, and to bring out Nate Sudfeld, and I know it's a meaningless game. I know winning does nothing for them, but don't act like you're trying to win. Then,
but like,
don't act like
that's the thing. Like Doug said after the game. I was coaching to win. No, you weren't.
No, you weren't.
You were absolutely not coaching to win.
And
you were coaching to lose, or like just because you wanted to see what Nate Sudfeld had. Which I mean, it's fine. Just say that.
Yeah. Don't
tell me you're trying to win the game though.
Exactly.
Like,
and it's the same thing with the Carson Wentz situation. This whole season long, he said, "Oh, the reason that we don't want to change is because it would indicate that we're giving up on the season." That's bullcrap. That's not even. That's so far from the truth.
That's actually the exact opposite.
You're literally.
It would have indicated that you were trying to save your season.
You're lying through your teeth, and that's been Doug Peterson a couple times, more than a couple times. He's done some stupid things, and we saw Miles Sanders. I don't know if you saw what he said today.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
he was saying how the team was not on board.
He was saying not one player wanted to do that.
Yeah.
You had Jalen Hurts on the sideline saying it ain't right. It ain't right. Like. You had Jason Kelsey calmly approach Doug on the sideline and ask what the heck is going on. Yep. And you had a couple offensive linemen holding back defensive players from like attacking Doug, like straight up, like screaming at him.
Insane.
Like I don't know. He said that this is like a thing to win, but honestly, I don't know how the team culture kind of rebounds from something like that.
How do you recover from this?
Yeah, because you threw that game so obviously and against the will of your team. Mm-hmm. And it's unfair to guys like Zach Ertz and Jason Kelsey who have given just years and years of their life to this team. And I know they make a lot of money, whatever, but it is unfair to them. And I saw like some heartbreaking tweets of like Zach Ertz and Jason Kelsey were sitting out on the field with a security man. Like they were just talking with this security guy until like 1:30 in the morning after the game. And like all the reporters were like, this is super weird. Like these guys are normally out of here by now. But I think they were just really like lamenting the night and like lamenting that they're leaving Philly. And
that's it. That's how it ends. I don't know where you go from here with Doug Peterson. And I'm not going to say... Like, I'm not surprised that he wasn't fired. I said it. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks.
Even a couple times,
Even when you thought he was getting fired, I just had a feeling with the run that Jalen Hurts went on these last few weeks that he was gonna retain his job. But I don't know how you rebound off of this. Like, how does the culture not completely spoiled at this point?
How do you look your players in the eye and tell them that you're gonna try to win next year?
Yep.
When you like so obviously threw a game, and I think. Like next year, you got a guy like Miles Sanders saying to the media, not one player agreed with this. Well, Miles Sanders is one of your best players going into next year. So if you show him next year, even once with a questionable decision that you're maybe not trying to win, he's totally going to write you off.
Oh, and no respect.
Yeah.
You lose all respect.
Yeah, exactly. I really felt, especially after that game, like Doug should have been fired. Whether he was doing what ownership wanted or not, because the players just won't respect him anymore.
That was rough.
Yeah. But that said,
that being said, I mean, we just laid into Doug for a lot, but Giants Here
fans,
we go.
Oh my goodness. Like, you guys are just so whiny. Like Joe Judge, I saw a video of Joe Judge talking about, the integrity of the game, of the game. Like, we have to respect the game. We got to respect the players. Like, why is it that only the Eagles are catching crap for tanking when the Jacksonville Jaguars have been sitting Gardner Minshew and playing Mike Glennon for like, how many weeks have been? Like 6 weeks? When the Pittsburgh Steelers gave the Browns a playoff spot by playing Mason Rudolph and sitting their entire, like pretty much all of their team. Woo. Like you had so many players. Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing today. Like everyone is is resting, and like so many teams are losing games almost on purpose this week in week 17, but it's the integrity of the game, man. Like, man.
And it's to a certain extent, I understand. You don't want teams to and we were just taught we don't like what the Eagles did. We don't like that they gave up. We don't like that they put in Nate Sudfeld. But the Giants, calm down.
Like you won 6 games.
Win more than 6 games, tough guy.
And like
let's relax.
If you had wanted to make the playoffs, just beat the Eagles in what week was that? Like week 11 when they were up in the last minute and Boston Scott scored a game-winning touchdown. Like, just win that game, and you're in the playoffs.
Win 7 games.
Yeah.
My team, my Miami Dolphins, went 10-6 and didn't make the playoffs. I don't have a whole lot of empathy for a team that went 6-10 and is whining about missing the playoffs.
You have Darius Slayton and all these other players just like, what's going on? And they're whining on Twitter. It's like, get off. Like, log out.
Yeah.
Just deal with your own crap because your team is not good.
It's embarrassing.
Your team was bad this year, and that's why you missed the playoffs. Not because the Eagles tanked in week 17.
Don't act like the Eagles were the only thing stopping you from winning a Lombardi this year. Let's pump the brakes, man. You're literally, you ought to win 7 games. That's not even half your games.
Yeah.
And when you talk about how stacked the AFC this year, I have zero empathy for any of these NFC.
No sympathy.
Nothing. I'm done. And Joel, unless you got anything else you want to say about the Eagles game,
I'm done. The Eagles. This season sucked. It was not fun.
Season in review, it sucked.
Honestly, if I were to give my season review, there are very few positives. Like, our team is old. We're like decrepit at this point. We have so many injuries all the time, and everyone's like, oh, if the Eagles just get healthy. But no, the fact is, like, our O-line is so old. Jason Kelsey's probably going to retire at the end of this year, which he's a Pro Bowler. Like, he's an all-pro center. So what are we going to do there? We have a lot of work to do. And this season was
long
not fun.
way to go.
I mean, at least we have Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts, but I think that's our only positives on this team
with
right
negative $70 million in cap space and the Carson Wentz situation, which we didn't even talk about. But there's certainly, I'll definitely have to have you on again during the off season sometime to talk about where the Eagles go with the future. But before, and we're gonna have to run through this a little bit quicker than I anticipated.
Okay.
But the Dolphins game, Dolphins obviously lose to not only the Bills starters, but also the Bills backups.
they lost them both in both
They literally
halves.
lost them both. They got outscored. Like, the Dolphins only scored 26. The Bills scored 56. The Bills starters scored 28, and the Bills backup scored 28. So literally the most depressing loss you can have as a Dolphins
awful.
fan. And pardon me, Joel, if all of a sudden I go long without letting you talk, but I'm just gonna get some things off my chest.
Hey, that's all right.
The Dolphins, it's I don't know, it's disappointing, and it's disappointing in a different sense than usually with the Dolphins, because usually it's like, we're the Dolphins, like, this is what happens every year. We lose, we disappoint. It just felt like this year was different. This team felt different. Honestly, I was stunned because I didn't think I thought this team was good enough to not get completely embarrassed. And it would be another thing if you lose this game 23-26 or something, but to lose it in the way that they did, that's not who this team was all season
Where their
long.
defense let them down, right?
Oh, 100%. And it wasn't just Tua. And Tua did not play well in this game. I will not sugarcoat it. And you can put the blame on Chan Gailey in the first half. I think he was a freaking disaster, and he should be fired yesterday already. But second half, Tua threw 3 interceptions. He only had 2 going into this game. And he did not play well, but the defense let you down. And it's just, the disappointing part is this team that we have to go out seeing in week 17 is not the team that I watched for 16 weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're not the team that was so exciting and so fun. And it's so disappointing to be 10-6 and miss the playoffs. But this team was 5-11 last year. They completely tore their roster apart. They had the most undrafted free agents last year on their roster than anybody had ever on their team. And to win 10 games after that is, it's tremendous.
It's good coaching, honestly. Like, from Brian Flores, the guy is a wizard.
Who knows? I think this game might have tainted his chances at Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely deserves recognition, and it is good to feel like you're going in the right direction. And real quick before we move on to the other things, a lot of questioning Tua right now. And before I get into, I have a whole thing here. But Joel, as an outsider looking in, you're not a Dolphins fan. I am a Dolphins fan. I would like to know what your perspective is on the Tua thing. You don't have these aqua and orange colored glasses that I do.
Yeah.
What is your perspective? Should the Dolphins move on from Tua? What are your thoughts on Tua?
I would not suggest moving on. See, like I come from like watching hockey where players take like 4 or 5 years sometimes to get going. So like I know football is different. Football is very, very different. It's almost like year 1 or year 2, or you're like Dwayne Haskins where you're cut. But I don't think that you can cut or like move on from Tua this fast. I think that you have to give him an offseason where he's the guy. Like last year, it was very clear that Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be the guy going into the season, and maybe they would hand it off to Tua. But I feel like they need to kind of build around Tua and like see what they can get out of him yet, because it's way too soon to give up on a guy where he had, I think, 8 games.
Yeah, nine starts.
9 starts total. He had 9 starts with a team that was built around someone else. And it was built very differently. And like you were saying, like the offensive coordinator ran the offense completely different when Tua was in.
Oh, 100%.
So I feel like you got to fully, like in the next year, you have to fully hand it over to him. If it doesn't work out, then you think about moving on.
And that's, obviously we'll talk, we have a long offseason to talk about, where these teams go in the future. And I think that's where this team needs to go. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick needs to not be back on this team next year.
It creates too much confusion.
Yeah. As great as he is, and I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, you need to get rid of him, and you need to let guys know Tua is the guy. We're riding with him. And to me, you talked about how hockey people take time to develop, and it hasn't always been like this in football. It hasn't always been rookie quarterbacks need to succeed now or we're done with them. But it's just been recent years. You had the Cardinals draft Josh Rosen a couple of years back and then immediately move on from him. But people want to compare Tua's situation to Josh Rosen's situation. And I just want to say real quick before we move on, that's just don't do that. That's not right. The numbers are not close. I have numbers written down. I did research. So Josh Rosen, 13 starts, 55% completion percentage. Tua in 9 starts, 64% completion percentage.
Oh, that's much higher.
9 starts, Tua had 1,814 yards passing. 13 starts for Josh Rosen, 2,278 yards. So that averages out. Josh Rosen was throwing for about 162 yards per game. Tua was throwing for about 181. So that's 20 more yards. Not overly impressive. But then 13 starts, Josh Rosen, 11 touchdowns. 9 starts, Tua, 11 touchdowns.
Oh, there you go.
14 interceptions for Josh Rosen, 5 interceptions for Tua Tagovailoa.
And keep in mind, 3 of those came in the last game.
Exactly. And a 3-10 record in those 13 games for Josh Rosen. 6-2 record for Tua Tagovailoa. And I found a little player you guys might have heard of, Josh Allen. I pulled up his rookie stats.
Well, this is everyone's favorite thing to do right now.
Yeah, and I want to preface this by saying Josh Allen is an anomaly. We don't see this very often. I do think quarterbacks some of them take time to develop, and you look at a lot of quarterbacks, their rookie years are not impressive. Josh Allen, his rookie year, 53% completion percentage. So that's compared to Tua's 64.
Yeah, that's not great.
Josh Allen, this is 11 starts, by the way, compared to Tua's 9. 2,074 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Tua had 11 and 5 in 9 starts. Josh Allen threw for 172 yards per game, where Tua was 181. Josh Allen was 5 and 6 in those starts. And I will also say Josh Allen did have over 600 yards rushing and 8 rushing touchdowns. So that's,
like that kind of offsets some stuff, right?
Compared to Tua's 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns on the ground. But that's never what Tua's going to be. He's not going to be a rushing guy. But I think you can see in those stats, like, you can develop a guy. And maybe he will never be the guy that Josh Allen has become this year. Because, like I said, Josh Allen is an anomaly. But just give a guy a chance. Josh Allen, I talked, and I should know firsthand, I talked so much crap about Josh Allen coming into the season. I did not think he was good. And if I was, let's say I was me last year and Tua was coming into his second season, I would probably be talking, and he was on a different team, I would be talking a ton of crap about Tua because I did the same thing with Josh Allen. But I would say just give a guy a chance. You cannot compare him to Josh Rosen, and I don't think you can compare him to Josh Allen. But I think if you can find that middle ground or get somewhere near to where Josh Allen has developed into, like give him a chance. The Dolphins had 20 dropped passes this year. That's top 10 in the league in dropped passes.
Yeah.
And, they had guys playing for them. Guys like, I don't know if you've ever heard of these guys, Isaiah Ford at receiver.
That's a no for me.
Isaiah Ford. There was guys like, I'm blanking on some of their names.
That makes sense because
But Antonio Callaway, who's not even on the team anymore, and then they had Malcolm Perry, who was a quarterback in college last year.
Yeah. Last year.
Yep, last year. Lynn Bowden.
How is that real?
Lynn Bowden. One sec. Who was a quarterback in college last year? Two college quarterbacks he was throwing to.
That makes zero sense to me.
So just have patience, Dolphins fans, and we'll finally move on to the next segment. We're gonna have to run through this a little.
Are we doing
bit.
MVP now?
Yeah. I think
Very good. Oh, I honestly, I feel like this is a quick conversation.
Okay, MVP pick, real quick. MVP, who you got?
I got Aaron Rodgers, despite Josh Allen's
really?
best efforts. Like, I feel like Josh Allen going into the game on Sunday was a mistake. I felt like at the beginning, especially when he threw the interception, I was like, oh my gosh, Josh Allen is ruining all of the momentum that he was coming into the playoffs with after week 16. But he turned around. He had a good half anyways. But I do feel like Aaron Rodgers 4 touchdowns and like having more touchdowns than punts and your team had punts. That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
You win the MVP for that.
I agree. I thought you would go Josh Allen, but I also went Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to win. And this is not to take anything away from Josh Allen. What Josh Allen did this year
it's crazy.
It's outrageous, especially where he was last year.
Yeah, where like the end of the year, what did he do? He like ran forward and like he was like running and then threw and then it was
Texans
like
game.
It was what was that Texans the last play? It was like
he threw a lateral, right?
He threw a lateral and he was just doing all kinds of stupid things in that Texans game and everyone was questioning him. And I remember thinking like while watching that game, I was like, man, this guy, like he's crazy athletic and he's built like a moose. He could be something, but like he makes all these dumb decisions and he changed that this year. He still has like more interceptions than Aaron Rodgers, which I feel like is also another reason why he shouldn't win the MVP. But like, so he still makes some questionable decisions, but he's cut down so much on that. And I feel like he had an incredible season, but Aaron Rodgers was just next level. You
can't discount, like we said, Josh Allen, 4,500 passing yards, 37 touchdowns through the air, 10 interceptions. Which is not bad. People scoff at 10 interceptions now. That's not a bad number of interceptions. He also had over 400 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns. He also had a receiving touchdown, so a ton of touchdowns. But Aaron Rodgers, to me, also MVP. 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's insane.
Yeah.
Then you have 70% completion percentage. He also had 3 rushing touchdowns. And like you said, just that stat about more touchdowns than punts.
It's ridiculous. You win the MVP for that. You get that. Also, though, I feel like Derrick Henry, he deserves some buzz. Like 2,000 yards and like getting 250 in the last game. Like he is superhuman, and I wish there was like a more prestigious award for him. But like he probably won't get much.
He might get Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised, but it's just so hard for a running back to win it now.
Yeah, I know, and there should be like some kind of award to like show like, holy crap, you're amazing. Like, because like a transcendent season, like just really, really good.
The last running back to win it was 2012 with Adrian Peterson. He was the last running back to also go over 2,000 yards. And I think, in any other season, maybe you can consider Derrick Henry. I definitely, like you said, I have him written down here. I think he deserves recognition. He's only the 8th player to ever go over 2,000 yards. Just an insane season. And it's just like, he's like, oh, I need like what, 250 yards to get to 2,000? Okay, fine, I'll just do it. And he just does it.
And he's playing the Texans who have no D line,
No,
so he's like, sure.
Here we go. But yeah, I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers as well, but definitely a lot of candidates this year for the MVP race. And real quick, before we get into our playoff picks, we're just going to go over the biggest surprises and the biggest surprises in a positive way, and the biggest disappointments from this season. And Joel, why don't we just start with you?
So surprises. My surprises are Josh Allen and the Bills, obviously.
100%.
I was thinking more of like a 10-6 team, not a 2 seed, that's for sure. And Josh Allen, I was not expecting him to become an MVP candidate. Mm-hmm. Maybe a better quarterback than he was last year, but not this. This was very surprising for me.
100%.
And then also, I also have Tom Brady.
Oh yes,
because I was not expecting Tom to have this kind of season. Yep. He passed for 4,600 yards. Crazy. I will admit I was wrong. I thought Tom Brady was going to be bad in Tampa Bay. Yep. He was not. Great season from Tom Brady.
He just continues to, like, a quarterback his age. I think he's 43 now.
Yeah,
he should not be allowed to do what he's doing.
No,
like he should be long retired. Peyton Manning retired a long time ago at that age already.
Yeah.
So it's definitely crazy. He surprised me as well. I thought he was going to be okay, but even I am impressed by what he's become. And you talk about the Josh Allen thing. That was my surprise as well. The Bills, not so much. I figured the Bills would win this division.
Yeah, I thought they would win. I thought they would win as well, and they still would have at 10-6. Yeah. But I didn't think like two seed was above and beyond.
That's why Josh Allen is my surprise, because like I knew the Bills would be good. They have a good team. They have a good roster. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have done a tremendous job building that roster. But Josh Allen, like, to go from, so last year he's at 58% completion percentage. He's at 69 this year.
Yeah,
he has 3,000 passing yards last year. He has 4,500 this year. And then 20 touchdowns to the air last year, 37 this year. I mean,
my gosh. That's actually blowing me away just hearing that.
It's the biggest improvement I can remember from a quarterback. Yeah. You hope, he continues to play.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what it will look like next year when maybe teams have more film on him.
Could be.
Obviously, I don't think he's going to play every single year at this high a level, but he just blew me away this year. Yeah. And you got any more surprises?
Well, I guess like the Stephon Diggs connection, that was surprising. And I think that helped Josh Allen a lot.
100%. Yeah. There were times where it seemed like the only person he was throwing passes to was Stephon Diggs.
I know you and I have talked about it a lot of times where like Josh Allen is like in the pocket, gets into trouble, rolls out to his right, throws for like a 25-yard completion, and it's always to Stephon Diggs.
And he's always 15 yards open. Yeah. Like there's nobody else around him.
I feel like Stephon is like, he has to be one of the best receivers at like seeing that his route, the route that he's running isn't going to work.
Yep.
And like, but still getting open and being able to communicate that with his quarterback to like, hey, I'm doing something on my own now.
Yep.
And it's working. And so like, I'm 15 yards open now.
I think that's
do that so often.
That meshes so well with what Josh Allen is. Oh, sorry. That was so loud. With what Josh Allen is as a quarterback, because he's a guy who's going to make extra time in the pocket. He's going to roll out. He's going to do these crazy things. He's got this cannon of an arm. Yeah, and he's like, and Stephon Diggs, absolutely, like you said, he's probably the best receiver in seeing, okay, this play is broken. Mm-hmm. I just need to find an open part of the field.
Yeah,
get me the ball. And it happens multiple times every game.
Yeah, and Josh Allen has such a cannon that it does, it like, your defense can't react to, oh crap, Stephon is now all of a sudden, he's 5 yards away from me. And like Josh Allen will throw that ball like 100 miles an hour right at his face, and then Stephon can run, like he can get some yards after catch yet.
The speed at which it goes from Josh Allen's hands to Stephon Diggs' hands it's too quick to defend. You just can't do it. But I don't know if you have any more surprises, or you just want to jump into disappointments.
Disappointments. All right, so for disappointments here, I almost left Carson Wentz off of the list.
Whoa!
I've been thinking about this all day, and I didn't think about Carson Wentz until about 6:30, and we start recording at 7:30, so almost only an hour before, because I forgot that we had him as like a top 10 or a top 5 QB going 100%. Into this year, and I feel like he's been bad for years. You know, like
it feels like a long time.
It has. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's felt like a really long time that he's been bad. And I forgot that it's only been this season. So Carson Wentz is my biggest disappointment.
100%.
Absolutely. I almost forgot about him. I was struggling to figure this out. But yeah, Carson Wentz. And then also, like, the Vikings as a team.
Yeah.
I liked the Vikings going into the season.
Yeah.
Defense was just too bad they couldn't overcome it.
Yeah, and Kirk just can't play in big games.
Yeah,
I mean,
Kirk.
flat out.
I don't know. I feel like they should move on.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They need to get somebody in there.
And then my last one, maybe this is just like week 17 bias, but the Cardinals, I thought they were a better team than 8-8, and I thought they should have been in the playoffs. They are better than the Bears, but alas,
it is disappointing the way it ended.
Yeah,
and I think you can say the Dolphins in the same way. I could almost put the Dolphins as my most surprising and most disappointing team because if you would have told me that the Dolphins are 10-6 this year, I would have thought you were insane.
Yeah.
But also disappointing because it sucks that they missed it here at the end because the team that they had become just wasn't what they were in that last week. But my biggest disappointment, and this is maybe not the biggest disappointment, this was a team that I was very high on going into this year, and that's the Denver Broncos.
Really?
Yeah, Drew Lock.
I gotta say, like, I did not believe in Drew Lock. Like, and and maybe that's honestly my ignorance where I didn't know enough about him. But
I think that's a fair opinion. I think that's a fair. I just thought, and it's not even that Drew Lock was amazing. If you look at his stats from last year, he only played like the last 4 games. They weren't that good. But I figured they brought in Jerry Jeudy. You had Cortland Sutton. Obviously, Cortland Sutton was injured for most of the season.
Almost the whole year.
Yeah, so that sucked. KJ Hamler, they also drafted. They have Noah Fant. And they have Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. I just figured with all these offensive weapons and a very good defense, I mean, they have probably the best safety tandem in the NFL. And Von Miller was hurt. Obviously, that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks.
But they have a decent defense. I thought they would at least sniff the playoffs. And they just look like a team moving in the wrong direction. They finished last in the AFC West this year.
And like the Jerry Jeudy thing was very disappointing. Like
100%.
He was like dropping passes all over the field and like I don't know.
He had like 5 drops in week 16.
Yeah, like extremely disappointing. Like he's gonna have to take a big step next year.
And I'm sure. I don't know. They can say all they want about Drew Lock. He just didn't show anything to me this year. I think they're gonna find a new guy.
Carson Wentz.
Another Carson Wentz.
Everyone.
But why don't we just jump into the playoff matchups? Finally, we're at the playoff matchups. We wanted to save time for the playoff matchups, but this is gonna be a long episode.
Yeah, we definitely did not do that. I remember we started recording. We're like, hey, let's fly through everything else so we can talk about the playoff matchups. Well.
It's just, we enjoy each other's presence so much, Joel. I had a good time. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely.
But why don't we jump into the Saturday game? So this is in order of the way the games will be played. I don't know if you have that written
that's exactly
down.
What I have.
Perfect. So first up, on Saturday, we have during the, what is it called again? The Super Wildcard Weekend. Super Wildcard Weekend. We have the Colts and the Bills. The 7 seed going against the 2 seed at 1 o'clock or 1:05 p.m. Joel, who you got in this matchup? And you can talk at all if you want to talk about the matchup. You can talk about it.
I feel like this is very obvious. I have the Bills. They are my boys in this playoffs because there's no Eagles. I think that honestly, I'm struggling. I'm a Leafs fan, so I'm very pessimistic entirely when it comes to playoff matchups. But I'm trying not to be with the Bills because I haven't followed them for more than like 3 years, so I haven't been like heartbroken by them for my last 25 years of my life. But like I honestly do think that they're gonna shred the Colts. Like I think this game is gonna be like 42-21, and it's like the Colts have a good defense. I understand that, and maybe I'm
not
stupid,
good enough,
but the Bills are on another level right now, and Phillip Rivers and Jonathan Taylor cannot hang with that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I just think that the Bills are on a whole nother level right now.
I got the same. I got the Bills winning, and I hate to do this because going into the season, I really like the Colts. I thought they were one of the most intriguing teams in the NFL, but the Colts are a team I believe in the least this weekend.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry. I don't. Carlos, my cousin, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry you're a big Colts fan, and I don't want to hate on the Colts, but To me, the Bills are just on another level right now. And if the Colts were playing any other team, and I mean any other team, if they're playing the Titans, they're playing the Ravens, they're playing the Browns, the Steelers, I would give them a much better chance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a tough matchup. And I like you, I just have no confidence in the Colts. The only way you can really see them winning is if Jonathan Taylor does what he does again and just keeps the ball in his hands, keeps it away from Josh Allen. I don't trust the game in Phillip Rivers' hands. I just don't trust it. So I'm going to pick the Bills as well. Mm-hmm. And then we move on to the next game. This is the 4:40 p.m. game on Saturday, and it's the divisional matchup, the Rams versus the Seahawks. Who you got, Joel?
I have the Rams. If Goff is in, I don't believe in the Seahawks. I said that earlier. I don't think that. And I remember in week 1, I told you I don't believe in the Seahawks.
You did tell me that.
And I think if Goff is in, I think the Rams win this. I like Sean McVay. I like Sean McVay a lot better than
Carroll.
Pete Carroll. I like Sean McVay a lot better than Pete Carroll. And I think that Pete Carroll's going to be like, hey, we got to run the ball for some dumb reason.
That's fair.
When you should just let Russ cook. And I don't know. I think that the Rams are going to win because of better coaching, and I just don't believe in the Seahawks right now.
I don't think that that's an insane pick. I picked the Seahawks to win this game, and I thought that we would maybe not have any different picks in this first round, but so I'm glad that we did. But I think the Rams are overall a better, maybe more talented team. But when it comes down to it, if Johnny Wolford is starting, or even Jared Goff, Jared Goff has not played well this year. I think the Seahawks are. I don't totally believe in them either. I don't think that they're a Super Bowl contender. Spoiler alert for the rest of our picks, but I'm gonna pick them to beat a depleted Rams team at this point. I would not be shocked to see it go the other way. But why don't we move on to the late game, the 8:15 game there on Saturday. And it's the Buccaneers versus the Washington football team.
I think we both have the same pick for this one.
I think it's the Buccaneers, right?
Yeah, of course.
I think we have to. I don't know. I did make a bet with you at one point that the NFC East would win a playoff game.
Hey, I'm going to win a coffee from this.
Who knows? The Buccaneers are a team all along. I felt like they're either going to make a huge dominant run to like the NFC Championship game, or they're going to lose in the first round to a team. But I feel like the way that they're playing right now.
Oh man, I could see it. I could see if it works out. I don't know how the seeding will all work out, but I could see them versus the Packers in the NFC Championship game.
And we're going to go through our entire prediction for the remainder of the playoffs quickly, not as in depth as we're going right now, but the Buccaneers, I think they're going to beat Washington. Then we move on to the Sunday game. The first game up we have is a rematch from last year, the Ravens. And this time they're in Tennessee playing the Tennessee Titans at 1:05 p.m. On Sunday. And who you got? I will preface this by saying this is the game that I had the toughest time picking.
I also would say that I did, but I let my personal bias slip in. I don't really like Baltimore. I'm taking the Titans. I believe in Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. I love the Titans offense. I hate their defense, but I think that I hope, I pray that they will be able to get it done against Lamar Jackson.
I legit had almost a midlife crisis trying to pick this game. I almost cried. I almost, I had a tough time. Genuinely, I think these two teams are very evenly matched, but I had to give the edge to the Ravens just because I think they're a more complete team. I think these teams are so similar.
Yeah, they are similar. They're very similar.
In the fact that the run game is such a huge thing, and I was texting you this weekend and saying that Derrick Henry is ready to take souls.
Yes.
In this postseason, so that it pains me to pick the Ravens. I don't want to pick the Ravens.
But Ryan Tannehill, I would say, is a much better passer than Lamar Jackson. But I know that you can't discount Lamar Jackson running the ball. But I feel like Derrick Henry evens that playing field, and that's why I picked the Titans.
What really pushed me over the edge is the defenses.
Yes,
the Titans defense. I can just imagine Lamar Jackson tearing that defense up. And then the Ravens, I think they have a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think their defense is good, especially when they're healthy. They have two amazing corners. I think that's kind of what pushed it over the edge. So I'm going to pick the Ravens.
Yeah, and you know what? What pushed me over the edge? Personal bias.
Personal bias. And that's fair.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be analytical here.
Yeah.
We can have some bias involved. But moving on to the Bears at the Saints, the 4:40 p.m. game, Joel. And oh no, I have a feeling I know
And talking about personal bias,
Uh-oh.
2 weeks ago I was here and I said that the Saints, in my hot takes, I said the Saints would lose in the first round. I'm sticking with that, going with the Bears.
Wow.
Mitch Trubisky.
How do you feel about that?
I don't feel confident, but
I hate the fact that you're rooting on Mitch Trubisky and I have to go against him because I picked the Saints to win this game. I don't totally believe in the Saints as an entity, as a playoff contender in the future. I'm going to pick them to beat just because it's in the Dome. If this was in Chicago, I would absolutely pick the Bears. I love what the Bears are doing lately. I liked what they did for 2 or 3 quarters against Green Bay. Mitch Trubisky, I think he's going to be back there as the quarterback next year, which is insane to even think that would happen just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the Saints pull off a victory, especially if Alvin Kamara's back. As good as that Chicago defense is, I just don't know if they're good enough.
I agree with everything you're saying, but I just have to go with what I said.
That's fair.
And I feel like I really pigeonholed myself into a corner here, and
I like going bold.
There we go.
Okay, I like going bold. And why don't we move on to the final super wild card weekend matchup?
Super.
And it's the Browns at the Steelers at 8:15. And this is obviously the game that has a little bit of a different ring to it because Kevin Stefanski's out, Joel Bitonio's out. That's very disappointing. But the Browns at the Steelers, Joel, who you got between the Browns and the Steelers?
Because of the COVID and everything else that's going on with the Browns right now, I'm gonna have to go with the Steelers.
Yeah.
They're my crush team. I want to pick the Browns. I hope they win, but I gotta go with the Steelers in this game.
I'm literally on the same boat as you. My picks here, I have my winners highlighted, and I literally have the Browns highlighted, but I'm switching it on the spot because I had this highlighted before the COVID thing.
Oh yeah,
It sucks, and I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope I'm wrong. The Steelers, they haven't played well lately, but I don't know. The COVID thing just seems like
it's too much. I think
it's too much,
and it's 2 weeks in a row. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Or no, when did they not have their wide receivers? That was in week 16.
Yeah, week 16.
It's like their third week of dealing with this, and they have not been able to be in their practice
because
facility.
they didn't have
really.
Denzel Ward last year either, or last week either because of COVID.
And they have not been able to practice properly and
Yeah.
everything. I just think it's way too much. It's too much for a playoff team to overcome.
So I'm gonna take the Steelers. So why don't we just quickly recap? So I'll quickly go. I'm gonna take the Bills. Joel, you're taking
Bills.
the Bills as well over the Colts, and then I'm gonna take the Seahawks over the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams.
You're taking the Rams over the Seahawks. The Buccaneers, I'm taking them over Washington.
Yeah, exactly.
You're there as well. I'm gonna take the Ravens over the Titans.
I'm taking the Titans.
And you're taking the Bears over the Saints.
The Bears.
Holy smokes. And then we're both taking the Steelers over the Browns. We're going to tabulate some of the seeding here, and we're going to give you our prediction for the rest of the postseason. Then we'll finally wrap up this playoff extravaganza of an episode.
Extravaganza.
Now that we got the wild card and we got all the seeding figured out, the divisional round, and I'm going to go, let's go through the AFC first. So I have my first matchup. It's Kansas City at I have Cleveland written down, but I changed my pick. Shoot.
So
I
you
got
have Baltimore then.
would it be Kansas City and Baltimore? I thought we had all the seeding figured out and I blew it.
It would be Baltimore because you'd have Bills Steelers. Yeah, it would be Baltimore.
Okay, yes. Okay, so Kansas City. Thank you, Joel. Kansas City at Baltimore. And we don't need to go too in depth with these ones because we don't know if these are going to be real matchups. But I'm going to say Kansas City wins. Just too much firepower for Baltimore. And who's your first matchup?
I have Chiefs versus Titans, and I'm also taking the Chiefs there.
Chiefs moving on. And then the second game, I have the Buffalo Bills at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Same argument. Too much firepower. The Bills are moving on to the AFC Championship.
And I have the same matchup, Bills versus Steelers, and I'm also taking the Bills.
There you go. We got a Kansas City versus Buffalo AFC Championship.
Oh, that is like... that's what dreams are made of.
That's best case Ontario right there.
No kidding.
That's
I
what that
hope
is.
and I pray that is our matchup because that will be so exciting.
Oh, man. I'm getting excited thinking about some of these matchups. But why don't we move on to the NFC in the divisional round? I have Tampa Bay at Green Bay as the Battle of the Bays.
Wow.
As my first matchup there.
All right.
And I'm taking Green Bay. I just believe in them so heavily.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Rodgers is playing at another level, and as much as I love Tampa Bay, I just don't think that's gonna happen.
I would have the Packers versus the Bears, and I think that the Packers will beat them 40-7.
So you're jumping off the Bears train, eh?
I'm jumping off the Bears train as soon as possible. I am only here because I made that hot take.
Okay, and then we move on to the second one. I have Seattle at New Orleans. A little revenge of the Beastquake run. Marshawn Lynch is not there anymore. I'm going to say New Orleans. New Orleans beats Seattle and moves on to the NFC Championship game. And who do you have?
I would have the Rams versus the Bucks, and I think that the Bucks would.
You have such a wild playoff bracket.
I have a wild. The NFC side is wild.
It is.
But I am taking the Bucks over the Rams. I think that Tom Brady in that offense is just too much for Sean McVay to handle, and Tom Brady has experience beating Sean McVay. So
there you go. He does for sure.
Yeah.
So then why don't we just go right to the NFC Championship game? So you would have
the Bucks versus the Packers.
There you go. I just had them in the divisional round. Who are you taking to advance to the Super Bowl?
Oh man, I would love to take the Bucks, but I don't think they have, especially in the snow. Tom Brady's old arm, it takes a long time to warm that sucker up. He's 43 years old, like that takes a long time. So I am taking the Packers, Aaron Rodgers.
There you go.
Destiny. This is a destiny game. I honestly think so.
I think the Packers might be the team of destiny this year. I'm also picking them. I have them over New Orleans. I don't think Drew Brees can literally the same argument. Drew Brees got that old noodle arm. I don't think he can get
noodle arm.
I don't think he can get that thing heated up in the cold.
Yeah.
I think Green Bay also potentially the team of destiny. I want to see Aaron Rodgers have another shot at Lombardi. So he moves on, and I believe we both have the same AFC champ.
We both have Bills Chiefs, right?
Bills Chiefs, and
I feel like we're gonna be opposites on this one.
Okay, you go first.
Here we go. Homer.
Oh boy.
I'm a homer. I am biased. You've obviously seen that. Don't go with my picks if you're a betting man. Don't. I'm asking you. Please don't.
For the love of God, please.
I'm taking the Bills.
The Bills.
Because I love this team. They're so fun to watch, and I really like the Chiefs as well. Yep. They were my crush team last year. I gotta go with my Bills. I gotta go with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary, these boys. I don't know why, but I'm going with them.
The craziest part about that pick, and I'm picking Kansas City, just so you guys know. The craziest part about your pick, though, is that it's not crazy. That's to me, that's the craziest part.
It's not. It's not all the way crazy.
It's legitimately not crazy. Like if you imagine telling somebody last year that you just picked in 2021 the Buffalo Bills to beat the Kansas City Chiefs to move on to the Super Bowl, they would call you a witch. They would think you're insane.
Yeah.
But legitimately, I can see it happening, and that's the crazy part. The Bills are just, like I said, playing at another level. They're dominant, and they're the one team I think that can absolutely knock off the Kansas City Chiefs.
I don't believe in any other team in this AFC, even the NFC. If the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, they're winning it. Right. And I don't believe in any other team other than the Bills, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to go toe to toe with the Chiefs. It's no one else. Yep. But yeah.
And you can talk about, a lot of talk has gone about how the Chiefs just have won so many close games and they haven't played, dominant football that we're used to seeing. I have this belief in me, and this is why I'm picking them to advance the Super Bowl. I just think they're going to hit another gear when they get in this postseason.
So
I think they have another gear.
Yeah.
Whether they're not motivated or they don't. It's kind of like the Warriors thing in basketball, where the Warriors it seemed like they didn't care about the regular season at times. And this team is so good. I feel like they're going to hit another gear. And as good as Buffalo is, I just don't know if they're good enough to beat Kansas City. So I'm going to say Kansas City advances to my Super Bowl. So I have Kansas City versus I have New Orleans written down, but Packers, it's Green Bay. I don't know why I have New Orleans, but I have Kansas City versus Green Bay, and this is my absolute dream scenario.
That is okay. I remember probably 6 weeks ago, I was telling you Chiefs versus Packers is going to be so fun in the Super Bowl this year, and I think either Chiefs or Bills versus the Packers. It has to be the Packers out of the NFC. Yep. I think for us to have the most entertaining Super Bowl ever, it has to be the Packers.
Yep.
But that is, either one of those are amazing matchups.
My Super Bowl fun fact: Kansas City versus Green Bay would be a rematch of Super Bowl I, the
Super
very
Bowl
first
I.
ever Super Bowl. And like I said, I would love to see this matchup. This would be so fun. And even your matchup of Green Bay versus Buffalo, it's so fun. It's just the fact that we don't have to deal with kind of a boring Patriots team making
Patriots
it anymore.
versus blank.
Yeah. It's all new teams, and we're not sick of the Kansas City Chiefs yet.
No,
and it's like that day will come, I think.
Probably,
but it's not here yet. I'm gonna say.
Once Patrick Mahomes starts throwing like 15 screen passes a game, then then we'll get sick of it.
Then we'll get sick of him. I'm going to say, despite how much I love Aaron Rodgers and everything, I just want everybody to know that I believed in Aaron Rodgers all along. You can go back and listen to the podcast. Before the season started, I said Aaron Rodgers was still good. His last season was fine. Everybody was hating on it. And I love Aaron Rodgers. But that being said, I cannot pick against who I think when he retires will be the greatest quarterback to ever play this game. Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to say he wins back-to-back. Andy Reid, he went 22 years without winning a Super Bowl, and now he has a chance to go back-to-back, and I say he does it. Kansas City beats Green Bay in the Super Bowl. And how about you for your Super Bowl?
Yeah, I would agree with your pick. I think whoever comes out of the AFC, whether it be the Bills or the Chiefs, if it's someone else, then I don't even know what to think. But if it's the Bills or the Chiefs, I think they're going to win. I'm going with my Super Bowl final. It's Bills versus Packers, and I would have to go with the Bills. I am a homer once again.
That's
don't
fine.
go with my picks.
No,
but I like Josh Allen. I love this Bills team. They're having so much fun right now.
yeah.
And
you call yourself a homer, and obviously you are to a certain extent, but it's also not crazy to think that the Bills will win the Super Bowl, and that would be crazy. In a different sense, the fact that the Bills have never won a Super Bowl before, all that heartbreak from 4 straight Super Bowl losses, to finally win it. I mean, they're a fan base that absolutely deserves it. And as much as my Dolphins fan bias wants to come out and not want that to happen at all, it would be kind of great to see. So that's how the things wrap up here in our playoff predictions. We're so excited for the playoffs. I can't wait. We got Saturday football back.
Saturday. I love Saturday football.
It's going to be great.
Week 17 was not complete without Saturday football.
Absolutely not. So Kansas City's winning in my bracket and Buffalo winning in Joel's bracket. And that wraps up our playoff extravaganza. I don't know if we have much else to say. Joe, I don't know. Actually, before we kick it over to Joe, follow us Instagram and Twitter @_average Joe Show. And also, Joel, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say before we end the show here. I really had a good time.
No, just thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely.
It's 2 times in 3 weeks, so that's a good time.
I hope you can come back on again shortly.
I hope so too. It's been a great time.
It was definitely a lot longer than I was expecting, but thanks to Joel again. And if you're listening to this podcast and you enjoyed it, hopefully as much as I did, I had a really good time today. But rate us 5 stars or do anything good, whatever podcast app you're listening to this on. Do something good for us. And if you give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and you leave us a review, we'll say whatever you want to say on the review on the podcast. We'll say it. We will say it unless it's mean. But Joe, you've been so quiet throughout this whole podcast. I'm going to let you wrap the show up. I'm not going to say anything more. You're going to wrap the entire show up. No pressure. I'm out. I hope you guys have a good week. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, it's been a good week. It's been a good year. Can't wait till we get to do this on the next one, We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Very good.